Good morning, Internet. Craig Chamberlin here with CraigTheTechTeacher.com, and it should be an interesting day. I was I had some good discussions yesterday. I posted an article from David Amerland, and people tend to get very defensive about Google Plus. Rightfully so. You know, we're big fans of Google Plus. Lots of crazy things going on over there. Jacob Williams made a really good point, and I'm going to talk about that today. But speaking of Jacob Williams, if you're not yet a patron, make sure you become one, because patrons help support the show. It keeps the show going. As you guys know, making videos specifically for Google's AdSense algorithm is like working for a ghost. And so I created the Patron program, or I became part of Patreon, so that I could keep this show going and growing with something a little more stable than the random blowing of the winds of Google AdSense. And you can check that out in the link below. My top patrons, of course, are Jacob William with Wild Academy at wildacademy.com. I'm actually checking out his website this morning, and it's full of a lot of really cool stuff. And check this out. It looks like he does a philosophy-based and psychology-based posts, as well as a podcast, which actually I'm intrigued to check out. That's really kind of awesome. I was actually a student of philosophy for a number of years. Well, obviously, life, right? Student of life is a student of philosophy. You can't just say a number of years. I still am. So I'm looking forward to check those out. But if you're into tech, he also is big on these Ruby programming tutorials up here at the top of his site. So check him out. He's got a lot of really good stuff over there, and he's enjoyable to listen to. And I appreciate his support as a top patron. We also have my sister-in-law, who I'm not supposed to be doing a shout-out for her yet because she hates our website, but I'm going to do it anyway. But she is also a top patron. This is Ashley Beige Photography. And if you guys are into photography at all, she's very unique, has a lot of really, really cool ways of handling just like approaches to photography. Very cool stuff. But thank you guys, and check them out. That's ashleybegephotography.com. There'll be descriptions and links in the links below. But here we are on Tuesday morning, doing the normal thing. And in case you guys didn't know, this is IT Life, where I give you guys insights into the real world of IT. And as a content producer on YouTube. And that's really kind of where this came from. I posted an article last night from David Amerland, and it was about people using the Google Plus Ghost Town posts just to kind of draw in traffic. And he made some good points on it's all about engagement. If you want people to really come to you or flock to you, you want to engage them. You want to engage people. And this engagement word floats around a lot in social media, and it's frustrating for me as an engager, a regular engager on Google Plus and on social media in general, but mostly Google Plus. Engaging people on the level that you want to really engage them is very difficult. It's a very difficult and time-consuming process, especially as your audience grows. Part of why I created the Patreon program was because a lot of people wanted my attention at that point, and I couldn't give it to everybody. You know, your time is finite. You only have so much of it. It's your most valuable asset. And so the Patreon program was just a donation service. You know, it was as little as $2 a month, and people could they'd show up on my feed as a priority kind of attention thing, and I'd have to start my day with them. And if I get to everybody else, that'd be great. But if I can't, I can't. But it is about engagement in that respect. But Jacob Williams brought up a very, very valid point. Although his approach, no offense, Jacob, your approach is somewhat hostile at times, probably out of sheer frustration, understandably. But he had talked about there is a group of people on Google Plus, and it's just the most active people on Google Plus. Like, it's the Google Plus enthusiasts, the hangout on air guys. And they are heavily involved in all the live hangouts. And so what they do is they since they all are kind of part of that cultural circle, they tend to visit each other's hangout and reshare each other's content. Now, this audience, and the reason I've even talked to a number of people who have found frustration in this, the problem occurs is that there's only a small group of people who are really genuinely interested in hangouts on air right now. There really are. And so what's happening is as Jacob said, is that they're basically just bouncing around each other's content, and it's not gaining a whole lot of traction. And I would agree with him on that. Like if you're in the world of social media, you learn that there's, and even Chris Pirillo said it best, there are pockets of engagement, especially on Google Plus. And you really, sometimes those pockets of engagement are big and sometimes they're small. Right now, the Hangout on Air community is a small community. It is a small, tight-knit community, and it's there for the long run. But since Hangouts on Air really haven't become mainstream, it's very difficult to be successful as a Hangouts on Air broadcaster. And even if you are considered successful, that's still a small percentage of people. It's a small group of people who are actually actively involved in Hangouts on Air. A couple examples why I killed off Craig the tech teacher, or Ask the Tech Teacher for now. One of the main reasons was because I just don't have time to put it at a reasonable hour. So if you want people to show up to a live show, you can't do it at Sunday at 10 o'clock p.m. But second of all is that as a Hangout on Air, it gained much less traction than most live shows. And I want people to put this in perspective. If you are in the market of doing a live show, and I want to strongly encourage you to look at this critically, I want you to take a look at the numbers that are occurring on Twitch TV and the numbers that are occurring on YouTube. Then I want you to take a look at the numbers that are occurring on Hangouts on Air on Google+. As far as a live broadcasting platform that gains traction, YouTube can have, the top people on YouTube can have hundreds of thousands of people watching live at any given time. Same for Twitch. The biggest Hangout on Air I've ever seen live has been around 100 people. And that isn't because the most successful people on the Hangouts on Air aren't providing anything of value. It's because there isn't a community there. There isn't a big enough community there to drive that much live engagement. So if you're going to continue down the road of live streaming, and down the road of that entire process, you want to probably get your show broadcasted on a platform where there is a bigger audience. For now, I wouldn't say stop doing the Hangouts on Air, because remember, you can embed your video in your event page, but you may want to consider, if you have the option, not everybody does, the live streaming option on your YouTube channel, or moving to a separate live streaming service that has a much bigger audience. And it's just part of dealing with the social media part, especially with Google Plus, because it's so young in its infant stages. But video does not do well on Google Plus at all. It's like when I picked my poison, I was picking it under the impression that when Google went down this road with Google Plus, they were going to build communities around the YouTube channel. I had faith that that's what their ultimate goal was, and it did not come to any fruition whatsoever. In my eyes, YouTube is Google's most valuable asset, and the content creators there. And in my head, I envisioned YouTube as Google Plus as being the social platform for video, where people could sit down and literally have a hangout while watching people's YouTube videos, but like in a seamless way. Like if they all joined in and watched a live stream, they could also join in and talk to each other, kind of like a hangout, while watching the show live. And it wouldn't necessarily be broadcasted, but the community could begin to build around the video. And that was how I thought they envisioned it. And that was why I kind of jumped in headfirst into Google Plus, hoping that would be the route that they took. In fact, the complete opposite happened. And what really happened was video became the least popular content on Google Plus, still is. And it basically became, and I love Google Plus, obviously, for many reasons, the community being the primary reason. But Google Plus became heavily a Pinterest type site, which the most successful stuff on it became animated GIFs and photos. And then it goes in that order. It goes animated GIFs, it goes photos, then it goes probably blog posts with good thumbnails, and then it goes probably video, and then text. That's probably the order in which things go. But when you're Google and you're building your entire foundation of your social media site, don't you think that video should have been the number one, especially if you're going to force a YouTube integration? Don't you think video would have been the central idea? And I'm hoping that's the direction they're still going. I mean, Hangouts on Air are great. The events are interesting. Events are more spammy than anything else, and you just end up making a lot of people mad with event requests. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Now I kind of wanted to talk about it in briefing. make sure you're branching out. Make sure you are reaching out to the biggest audience you can possibly reach out to. And sometimes that means looking elsewhere. You know, if you've expanded, or that's how it works in content production. If you have saturated your market and you've tapped into all the people you believe you're going to tap into, it's time to expand. So I would encourage you to do that. And I've kind of done that with Google Plus. I'm just now expanding to Twitter. I started on Google Plus, expanded my network as much as I feel I can. I've got a good infrastructure there, and then I'm expanding it to Twitter. And I'm finding that a lot of people on Twitter are also interested in my content. But it's a different market. It's a different culture. You know, you got to assimilate yourself and revolve your content around that culture. And that can be a stressful process as well. So thanks for coming out today, guys. I know this video wasn't really about IT, but it was the world that I live in, content production. And as always, thanks, patrons, for keeping this show going and growing. I'm excited. I'm going to be doing another Windows 8 tutorial today. Probably also finally actually going to get that motor spinning in the back of my office. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for coming out. As always, patrons, feel free to ask me questions anytime at that VIP email address I gave you. And I will make sure you get the attention you deserve. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I will see you soon.